It is a delight to have you here today. As we gather, we want to use this opportunity to present the John Pierce Award. It is the first time that the John Pierce Award is going to be presented. The John Pierce Award is being connected to ambassadorship, recognizing someone who exemplifies what it means to advance the mission of Concordia College into the future. If you have not signed up yet to be a Concordia ambassador, please go to our website, sign up to be an ambassador, and you will see there are multiple ways that you can help advance the institution in the future by referring and recruiting new students. I've been sharing that one of the greatest gifts that the alumni can give to a college is the referral of a student. If you do some simple math, if that brings $20,000 revenue every year for 4 years, $80,000 revenue in one student coming because of your work of referring, imagine if all kinds of our alum did that. What if they did it for multiple students? Not many alum give that kind of gift in their lifetime. So also connecting with current students by serving mentor or providing internship or job opportunities, engaging our Cobber community, alumni, connecting with alumni, and then, of course, communicating our mission. If you're one that's on social media, we'd love to have you help us tell the story of the way lives are being changed at Concordia College and students are being sent into the world to influence the affairs. And so, it's an exciting day. The John Pierce Award. First, a word about John Pierce. President Kraft.
Thank you, Terry, and welcome everyone. John Pierce signed on as a member of Concordia College's development staff the year that I graduated from high school. And he stayed at Concordia until 2019, and by my count, that is 50 years. A remarkable career. And so there's a lot to tell about those 50 years. And so there are many things that I'm not going to tell you here this evening. I'm not going to tell you about the sheer terror that Ann Kraft and I felt riding in a car with John Pierce across the desert in California, except to say that it greatly enhanced our prayer life. As John drove with a coffee cup in his right hand and a cell phone in his left and something on the wheel, I think it was his knees at that point. I won't tell you about the fun I had singing doo-wop songs in those cars with John Pierce, nor about the way in which I fairly early on discovered that if I made one kind of comment, John would write it down with a red felt tip marker, and if I made another, he would use a yellow. And so I'm not going to tell you any of those things here this evening. What I will tell you is that so much of what I learned about Concordia College and the people who love this place, I learned from John in those cars and in restaurants early in the morning, at Cracker Barrel with my fourth or fifth breakfast of chipped beef on toast, or dinners in Florida. I learned so much about what it means to love this college from John Pierce. In fact, I would go to dinners in places like Naples in which I was allegedly the speaker. And I would walk into the dinner and someone would say, "Oh, who are you?" And I would say, "Well, I'm Bill Kraft, I'm the president." And they say, "That's nice, where is John Pierce?" But that question arose from 50 years of love and nurture and care and genuine regard and assistance to the people whom John worked with. There were powerful, strong relationships with all of those people, John, whom you worked with over all of those years. And I am so proud to have been his colleague, and I am delighted beyond words that John is honored with this new award and to have you and Donna here this evening. So I want all of you to join me in recognizing the remarkable and lasting legacy of John Pierce.
So a word about the award. Trina, if you want to show the award, this is a David Hetland, the sewer. Some of you will remember David Hetland. He was a nationally recognized liturgical artist and consultant known primarily for his mosaics, stained glass windows, and for the towering murals at the annual Concordia College Christmas concert. He was the recipient of numerous design awards, an honorary Doctor of Fine Arts degree, and the Alumni Achievement Award from his alma mater here at Concordia College in Moorhead. Here's what David said about this particular piece of art. The sower is a contemporary depiction of the traditional parable found in Matthew 13. The white clapboard siding of a farmhouse carries the thematic text, sunflowers bloom brilliantly in the background while hungry birds circle overhead. A threatening sky promises rain to nourish the seeds being sown by the farmer who scatters some among the rocks and thorns, some in good soil. Blessed be the memory of David Hetland. A fitting award for the John Pierce Award, recognizing Cobber Ambassadorship. The first ever John Pierce Award recipient for ambassadorship was born into humble and tragic beginnings. His father was killed in a train accident 5 days after his youngest brother was born. His mother, at the age of 29, was left to raise the children on her own. She was a woman of deep faith, bringing her children to church every Sunday, insisting the family sit in the front row. This Lutheran Christian upbringing made choosing Concordia College a logical choice for this recipient. He loved Concordia College and was so very active during his years here. He graduated in 1963 with a chemistry major and math minor. He taught science and math at high school in Silver Bay for 18 years. From 1966 to 1973, he owned and operated a fast food restaurant in Beaver Bay, Minnesota, while teaching school. In 1975, while still teaching, he began working for Lutheran Brotherhood, now Thrivent Financial, where he worked for 43 years before retiring in 2018. And now hear this. May you be inspired to go out and fill out to become a Cobber Ambassador after you hear what this recipient has done. Since graduating from Concordia College, he has recruited 50-plus students to Concordia. He has provided numerous legacy scholarships, 3 endowed scholarships. He is a Soli Deo Gloria level donor. He's been a class agent for 18 years, making 150 to 200 calls per year, served on the National Alumni Board, has hosted corn feeds, is now on the mission to make sure that every faculty, staff, and alum of Concordia College has a Soli Deo Gloria sticker on the back window of his or her car. He told me that someone once called him the Soli Deo Gloria guy. And he said, Terry, I can't imagine having such a delightful way to be remembered. And so without further ado, I present to you the first recipient of the John Pierce Award honoring Concordia Ambassadorship, Soli Deo Gloria guy, Gary Zinter.
Thank you very much, President and Ann Kraft, my dear friends, John and Donna Pierce, Reverend Terry Brandt, and the advancement team, members of the Board of Regents and former members of the Board of Regents, my family guests. I have my wife here, 48 years, that she puts up with this Cobber, and my sister Jan and her husband Jim Willard are back there. My brother Irv and his wife Pam, are with us today. And a special student is running the camera for me. He was in my chemistry class back at Silver Bay. And he's a cobber, and all three of his sons are cobbers. And two of them were on the football team. One was a fullback and the other an end. And the fullback, Brett, broke many records for touchdowns and so on. So I was glad to sit in the bleachers with the Bounty family and witness all of that. Not with us tonight is our daughter, Courtney. She's an attorney out of a law firm in Washington, D.C. She and her husband, Frank Fader, moved this last month to Bellingham, Washington. They're staying right now in a B.O.B. Finding a house is very difficult, but she's trying to negotiate with a builder that would finish this house by October. So she's very busy dealing with the housing issues and so on. I'm missing three people tonight that are deceased. My mother, she would be at every function we ever had. And I'm missing my brother Al, who's a year behind me. Al was one of four freshmen that made choir under Paul Jay, which is always a great feat. He also was a help for me. He was a year behind me, and we lived in the Brown Hall dorm. And you know, when I had a paper that needed to be typed up, I brought it down to his room at 11 o'clock at night. And, you know, he played the piano, so his fingers and his brain worked very well. He would fly through that report that needed to be done. Never once did he say, oh, I'm tired, I can't do it. This is my brother Al. And another one that I'm missing is a classmate, Ron Struxness. Ron Struxness was a member of the alumni board. I feel he was very instrumental in nominating me for the Call to Serve Award. But somehow I figured too, because they were close together, Ron died Christmas Eve this past year. And we were communications often in the last 10, 15 years. We both had a love for Concordia. We would talk about things about, you know, enrollment, things, what if the government pays for 2 years of schooling? How will that affect the private schools and so on? That was Ron Struxness. So I'm very humbled to receive this award and thankful, and thank you for John and Donna. I guess I'm supposed to talk about recruitment. John, Terry said some things already. I graduated in '63, went to Silver Bay to teach, and I had three siblings still in college. And so what do? You come back for homecoming and you come back for Christmas concerts because they were there as well. So I got used to coming back to Concordia every year, and that continued. I started bringing high school students, 3 or 4 at a time, to a Christmas concert, and it kind of went like this. Saturday at 8 o'clock, we left Silver Bay. It's a 6-hour drive. You know, we're talking all the way for at least those first 6 hours. There's a campus tour at 3 o'clock, and then we eat at the cafeteria, and then we go to the concert. And in the early years, we stayed in the dorms. Later years, it was evenings at a hotel. And so I would generally spring for some of those costs, or almost all those costs. And if the bookstore was open, we would go to there. In the beginning years when I was a teacher and very little money, I told them to bring 20 bucks with. And we usually spent that on a sweatshirt so that they'd come back to school and they'd wear that Concordia sweatshirt. In later years, I would spring for it and buy them, and now they're 50 bucks a pop, and that. So anyway, that was the recruiting. It was much easier years ago when I was teaching in the school system, but the enrollment then, we would graduate 150 to 190 students per year. When our daughter graduated, there were only 50 in the class. That was in 1998. And last year, there were 15 in the class. So it's very difficult. You're lucky if 1 or 2 students go to a private school when you have 15 students. This year, oh, by the way, this spring, this past 5 years, we've had a student from Silver Bay. Her name is Brooke McMillan. She played on the hockey team. And of course, she was at school 2 years during COVID, so she took advantage of that 1 free year of tuitions to get another major and also play another year on the hockey team. Now, I'm very excited about this year because, believe it or not, out of a class of about 20, we have 2 females that are signed up to go to Concordia. One will be on the hockey team and majoring in hopefully some medical field. And the other one is interested in singing in the choir, a choir. You don't always get in the first choir, as you know, and is interested in journalism. And anyway, with Brooke, the first one, I was so excited that we finally had somebody at Concordia. I told her I would buy her a class ring when she turned to be a junior. And so I did, and with these 2 going to school starting as a freshman, I told them also that as a junior they would get a class ring. And also for helping for recruiting, our church at one time had a membership of 1,100. The church attendance today is averaging 30 to 40 on a Sunday. And about 20, 25 years ago, 2 Olies and myself, we got the church council to put in a scholarship for anybody going to an ELCA college. And that would be $1,000, and if there are 2 people, there would be 2 of those. And as maybe you're familiar or not, Concordia on congregational scholarships will match that 1,000. And so the students, and by the way, parents, according to tax laws, cannot contribute or any relatives. And so I let these 2 families know that I would put $8,000 into the Sychar Lutheran Church Scholarship Fund. And so they'd be, if they make it the 4 years, that would be worth $8,000 apiece to them. Anyway, that's part of the recruiting process for students. Get to recruiting for the family. I'm the first in the family to go. I think probably the first in our generation, or anyway, to get a 4-year degree, a bachelor's. I did have one aunt that had a nursing degree. I'm not sure if it was 3 years or what. But anyway, our family would come down to reunions, come down to homecoming, I should say, and we would be at the concerts, and the parade was always a big deal together, a football game and the concert. There used to be musicals in the early years, concerts now. And we were at the Hampton Inn in the evening. We got together this one time, all 4 of us, and I think one of the Petersons, John, I can't remember, or Connie was there. And we started talking about our grandfather, Albert J. Peterson. It would be his 100th birthday that year if he had lived. But the ones in my generation were talking about giving stories about him, and the great-grandchildren were all ears. They were all very attentive listening to these stories about our grandfather. Well, that led to the following year, it would be our mother's 80th birthday, so we were going to have a family reunion, hence for the buttons. Now, this button isn't for, I just picked one up, it's honoring my brother, but we would make buttons like this for our annual Concordia homecoming reunion for the Peterson Zinter. And we'd personalize it. We would have their person's name on it and the year they graduated from Concordia. We met at Rose Creek Country Club. They were famous in those years for their Sunday brunch. So after church on Sunday, we would go to Rose Creek, and they gave us the lower level. We had our own brunch set up, own room for a program. And so we'd start the program. In the case of my mother, we asked everybody, all the relatives, cousins and grandchildren and their children, to write something nice about her. And so I would collect about 25 of these about a month in advance of the homecoming, and I'd give those to my lady that cut my hair, Judy Young. She was good. She had a gift of putting words and music to song. And so the history of the person. And so the Zinter Quartet would sing that at our gathering. It was my two brothers, and one, especially the choir director, the choir person would have us practice a couple of times, and then that would be part of it. But also those 25 letters, I would pick out 5 or 6 and ask those people at that day to come up and read those letters, what they'd written about our mother, Dorothy, whether it was their aunt or whatever. And so that was part of the program, singing the song. And then we'd invite a professor to be our guest teacher or professor at the Peterson-Zinter reunion. First year was my favorite one, Gus Dinga. And we've had Joan Buckley, Wendell Buckley, we had the campus pastor, James Hoffering. And so they would give 10 minutes on what they liked about Concordia, why they were there. Sitting in the audience were a lot of our younger 7th graders, 9th graders, 10th graders, all soaking this up and wanting to be a part of it. At the end, we would allow any of the students who were currently going to Concordia to talk for 5 minutes about their experience at Concordia. That ended the program. When they went home, it was videotaped, by the way. Each family got a tape of that. Each family got a booklet of all the nice things said about the person being honored. So we did that 7 years until, well, our daughter was the 21st in the Peterson-Zinter clan, and our godchild was the 22nd. And so after she was at college, then we kind of quit doing it because there was no more that we had to bring in to the school. Anyway, that's with the family. Another thing that I did was class agent. Going every year to homecoming, you don't always see very many of your classmates unless it's an anniversary year. Well, I was going all the time, and maybe half a dozen to 10 people. I would see 4 or 5 of my classmates. And one was Rod Thorsall, and he was a class agent. Well, he wanted to give that thing up, being a class agent. And so he conned me into doing it, and I said, sure, I'll do it. Now remember, I had a paid secretary that would type and do anything I needed, and she spent many hours doing things for Concordia. Anyway, I did it, and as you know, class agents, the college sends out information to students to say, send any news in to them at the alumni office, and then they would forward it to the class agent, and we would be responsible for a letter or so on. Well, after a couple of years, and our letter was 2 pages long, 3 pages, depending on how much material the college puts in, and I thought everybody should, when they get their class newsletter, see somebody that they knew, that they'd recognize, whether it was somebody down the hall in their dorm, or whether they were in their major area. They should not only see one, but maybe 5 to 10 to 15 people they would read about that they knew. And so I started calling, as Terry mentioned here, I started calling 150, 175 to 200 a year. That was half of my class. So every year I did half the class. Now, that was a good experience, you know. You can start talking to somebody in your class, you didn't know them, but that conversation could go on at least with me, for 30, 40 minutes. And when you start thinking about calling 200 people at 25 a day, that's about 8 days of being on the phone. Now, to be honest, sometimes I wouldn't call them back. If they didn't answer the phone, I left the message, because that would have been too much to try to talk to everybody. But I did catch a lot of people, and the letters began to be 25 pages, 30 pages. I think we had one at 38 pages. They were not to put any more than 5 to 10 sentences, 15, I should say 10 to 15, 15 maximum, and that. So anyway, now the side effect of that was I got to know people. I would ask them, and probably 4 years later, I'd ask them the same question: what did you do for your living? And that allowed me to nominate, out of our last 4 AAA winners, 3 of those are people that I had the privilege of nominating. Our class has a total of 7 AAA winners, which is, I believe, it's the most of any class. I think probably the next closest one is 5. So we're safe for a while, all right? That's AAA winners. So that was a side thing of being a class agent. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the memorial packets. Now, hopefully all of you have seen one of these things. The college provides these for you, and it's got the Concordia bell on here, and for 40 years I've been using these. And I went back and I keep a record of every one I sent, so I went back the last 3 years, and we're averaging 50 to 60 of these cards a year. With my business, you have a lot of people, and especially my age, when you're on Medicare, that die. And so they get one of these cards. And in the obits, sometimes they'll say they'd prefer it to go to St. Jude's or Red Cross or St. Mary's Catholic Church or whatever. And I honored that. I would send a check for anywhere from $25 to $100, and besides that. And so they would get a response that we made a donation to Concordia College. There's probably not a person in our area that doesn't connect Concordia College with Gary Zinter, because over the years there's probably been close to 2,000 of these out, and that's one of the things. On a Christmas letter, they know I always put out, I went to Concordia's homecoming, I went to, Concordia Christmas concert, and so again, this is a way to get Concordia out in front. Endowment, that's another one I want to talk about. My brother Irv is CPA. I sent him a financial statement, and he looked at that and came back at me and said, Gary, about half of your estate's going to charities. That's when you both die. It looks like you got enough. Why don't you start giving some money out at this time? And being over 70 and a half, the laws there. If it's an IRA, you can give money directly to a charity without paying any income tax. And still working, I have a tax problem. And so it's an pretty easy thing to do. So for the last 6 years, to charities, we've given out $90,000 to $100,000 a year. And anyway, Concordia has received there's 4 endowments for scholarships there. I've also given to 4 existing scholarship funds with Concordia that have other people's names on it. And another endowment fund, we did 4 personal ones. I believe Terry said...
Do you feel me getting closer here,
To
Gary?
the end. Terry,
But I know you got to stick
Terry said that, say this to the people. So I'm telling them, I don't want to be bragging about it, but they want to know what I'm doing for Concordia. There were 4 other scholarship endowments. We've been giving high school ones out since our daughter graduated to emphasize excellence in maths and science. They get their top chemistry, physics, biology, and senior math each get a certificate and a scholarship. And we do that for 3 schools, Grand Marais, Silver Bay, and 2 harbors. We added a civic one, so there's 15 total, and endowments funds are funding that. So anyway, that's the endowment thing. Next, almost the end, Soli Deo Gloria. And this summer, I went past, there's a small Baptist church down the block from us, and I drive by it all the time. And there happened to be a pickup with a sign on the back, and it said Soli Deo Gloria. And I'm looking at that, and I said, why didn't I think about that? And so I ordered 2 of them from Amazon, and it was costing me $41. But at that time, I thought that's kind of pricey, $20 a piece, so I sent out bids to Duluth. One was $16 a piece, but the other one was $5. I happened to get a good Baptist working out of his garage and would sell them to me for $5 a piece. And so I'm on a mission to get 200 to 300 of these Soli Deo Gloria things out to people on the North Shore. So when you come up and visit us, you'll see that on the back of our cars or trucks or whatever. And so far, I started late, so I'm going to be working on that this year. But I thought about this. What if all the employees of Concordia had that on the back of their cars? What a statement you would make for Fargo-Moorhead area. What if, not only the employee, but the spouse, you would double the effect? what if every student here, instead of a parking permit, have Soli Deo Gloria on there? Think of the effect you would have there. Not only here, but when they go home and they see that, the neighbor says, oh, there's Soli Deo Gloria card. The daughter must be home for the weekend. What if we gave it to the proud parents of those Concordia students? Kind of effect you would have there. What if it went out to all alumni, made them available? So I may be a little crazy about this, but I've been in sales all my life. And so I want to sell Concordia, I want to sell the mission and Soli Deo Gloria. So I'd like to end with a verse from Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10. We are his workmanship created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. Soli Deo Gloria.
Gary, what a remarkable history. I'm conscious of the fact that we're here in the Knutson Center and that Gary is standing right beside the image of Joe Knutson. In 1956, Joe wrote a letter to his friends Joyce and Harley Carlson, and in that letter, he wrote that leading Concordia College is an act of faith. That's what your work has been, an act of faith. Soli Gloria indeed. Congratulations.